Hi, I'm Jennifer Sir of the Sewing Room, and today I'm going over some of the progress on my 1920s reconstruction dress. So here we are. Here is the dress as it stands now. So it's only the bodice, but we've already done the slip, and I've created this black burnout velvet top that goes over the slip so that you can see the embroidery that was originally on the original dress. And then when we turn her around, you can see what I've done in the back. So another V-neck, slightly higher than the front. You can see the embroidery again. And then the embroidered bits that were in the sleeves, I've taken them out of the sleeves, joined them together, and created this back drape. So I think it makes it look quite nice and appropriate for the era. I used some references to get the look of the drape, and also just to see what some of the designs in the 1920s might have looked like. I did add this little tie back here that joins the shoulders, and I needed to have that because there was both a deep V in the back as well as the front, and there needed to be some sort of way to stabilize the back so it didn't keep falling off the shoulders. Alternatively, what I think I'm going to do is add little tiny thread loops or thread chains with snaps as carriers to the black velvet top that will go under the slip. And then if someone, whoever purchases this from me, if they want to take that back tie off, they can. And still have it be stable. But I also thought it was a cute little detail. I used the bias trim that I used to finish the armholes. And I'll give you a little tour here in a minute of what the inside of this looks like. At the moment, what needs to happen next is that I need to baste the slip and the bodice together. I need to do the thread chains and snaps at the shoulders, join the skirt to the bodice, and attach the bow. And then I will be done, and I'll be so glad because I think it's been a fantastic renovation, and I'm super excited to find a new home for it. Okay, here is the inside of the dress. I wanted to show you a little bit about how it got put together. The first thing I did was trace off the original bodice to get the right shape and size. Then I created a pattern with a V-neck in the front and a V-neck in the back. The armhole I made a little bit deeper. And in retrospect, I probably wouldn't do that again. I'd probably have it be the same height as the original with the sleeve on it, because from the sides you can actually see the slip peeking out a little bit at the armhole. I'm not too worried about that. It doesn't bother me that much. But in any case, if I were to do it differently, I wouldn't lower the armhole any more than it already was. So I took this beautiful burnout velvet and I cut it out. I cut it out using pinking shears at the side seams and the shoulder seams, with straight cutting at the armholes and the neckline. I pinked it because I didn't want to do a really wide seam, and I was just going to press it open. The pinking will help restrain any kind of fraying that it might have and when sewn together. So anyways, so let's take a look at the inside. Currently it is pinned to the slip, and I'm going to keep it pinned and hand baste those two together before I hand baste the skirt on. And that's one of the things that when you're working with velvet really, really helps, is to hand baste everything together, to pin it very thoroughly and hand baste it before you machine stitch it. Otherwise, the velvet just sort of slips around and you'll end up with one side being longer than the other. It's not very fun. So you can see inside the seam allowances have the little diagonal cuts on the edge from the pinking shears, and I've finished the edges with a bias silk. And the bias silk is just bias pieces cut on silk scraps that I had at the shop, and they were pinned, hand basted, machine stitched on, then lightly pressed to the back side and hand stitched. Let's see if we can get close. close so you can see all the hand stitching in there. And they've been hand stitched down to the velvet using just a slip stitch, or some might call it a prick stitch, but it's actually more of a slip stitch. So it just grabs a tiny bit of the velvet, and you don't really see the stitches from the outside. I added this drape to the back. Let's see what's going on here. Everything's kind of turned around. Here we go. So we have the slip, and this is the back right here. So I have these little ties that join the shoulders together to help to keep it from falling off the shoulders. And then I've hand stitched on with as clean finish as I could, and tiny little running stitches on this back drape. So I didn't want any of the fabric to show through. So I've just hand stitched it all in place. And then you can see some of the pink on the inside, but you really don't see any other stitches. And it's just stitched in place at the shoulder seams. So I didn't sandwich it in. I wanted to cover the seams so it rolled a tiny bit forward. So I just stitched them on by hand afterwards. Here you can see that I pinned the slip to the bodice. I will hand stitch that and join it to the skirt.